Hi, I'm sat here with DeMusliM, professional StarCraft 2 player, here at G3 in London. Straight off the bat, DeMusliM, how is it feeling at the moment? Because earlier on in the quarterfinals, talk us through what happened for the final game that you were in.
Honestly, getting to the quarterfinal for me was a big achievement. I was in a group with every group was really hard, and in my group I managed to beat the WCS European champion, who's a Korean, so arguably the favorite of the tournament. So that was really cool getting here. And then I had to play against a guy called Hyun, who an absolute monster. And I knew that I've had not as much practice as I'd like recently, so I tried to do something a little bit cheesy, and I didn't realize that he's got a brand new build that's very good against exactly what I was doing. So it didn't go too well, but it was great to play in front of the UK audience.
Yeah, I was actually going to do a follow-up question. Is that, do you always prefer the more cheesier plays? Because I noticed both yesterday on G3's stream and today that you've been doing a lot of 2 racks pushes or a lot of very early aggression right off the bat. Is that your preferred choice, or was it specifically for the G3 tournament you were going for it?
There's multiple reasons, but I'm in the middle of taking a little bit of a break from StarCraft. I've been having some panic attack issues and breathing issues, and even getting rashes on my skin. And I went to see a doctor, and he said you're suffering from stress, too much stress in your life. And I was like, okay. So I'm deciding I'm going to take a month off. So I was taking a week or 2 off, and then they were like, oh, Gfinity's here. I'm like, okay, I'll try my best. And then so I'm going to take a few more weeks off and see my family afterwards. But against Stardust yesterday, when I 2-raxed him, a cheesy play, I noticed something. He wasn't scouting in the first game that I lost. And I was like, okay, if you're going to play greedy as that, I'm going to take advantage of you. And I did that, and then I noticed the third game he was playing super safe, and I just took advantage of that as well, playing kind of risky, but also just kind of clean. Against Hyun, I'm playing against players that are in far better shape than me right now, so you have to try and outsmart them and try and win in riskier ways, because if I play a straight-up macro game with these guys, it's going to be incredibly difficult, given that I haven't had as much practice as them recently.
Yesterday, I saw one of the largest cheers that happened was when you took all the SCVs, all the Marines, and just went head-on at them, and it worked. That was such an amazing moment. I had to give just great. I wanted to ask, though, who is your favorite opponent to play, either at G3 or just in general? Given that you might be taking some time off, but who was your favorite person at the moment playing?
At this event, it was definitely Stardust. Right at the start of the day, I came, and people in the scene, they've known I haven't been practicing, just because I've said hey, I need to take a little bit of a break. So he came up to me and said, I went, hey up Stardust, and he said, hi free win. I was like, oh, okay. And then before the matches, we're backstage, and Mark Olberts from Blizzard came over, and he was like, hey, who's going to win? My response was him, and then Stardust responded him as well. I was like, okay. And then playing the game, he won the first game very easily, but then the next 2 games, it felt very simple. So yeah, a simple victory is a good victory, but also the fact that he was so cocky. I loved it.
Yeah, it definitely felt like an air of overconfidence during the second game, especially. So, but it was fantastic to watch. I love your style of play is very exciting. There's a lot of cheer moments. I love watching MC play, but it's a very methodical destruction. So, following up, you're big on Terran, big Terran player. If you weren't Terran, who would you be?
I'd be Zerg for sure. The playstyle, initially getting into StarCraft, I was a mechanical-based player. I had very good micro, and I can't stand low health bars. And so, the fact that you have medevacs that heal everything, I thought that was a really good thing for me. Also, the fact you can repair buildings. But now, the style of play has changed so much, and Terran feels like the race that you almost have to be one step ahead of the curve. Also, you have to do some cheeses now and then, because if you play a straight-up game every time, I feel that you're way too predictable and way too easy to abuse. Whereas Zerg, you really get to set the pace of the game, and you get to play in your element every time, which that's definitely the kind of way that I would love to play. And it seems way less stressful too. It's you don't go into a game and it's oh, I did this build, I'm going to lose, or I did this build, I'm going to win. It's more okay, if I do everything correct, I'm going to win, which way less stressful.
Yeah, I was going to say, with Zerg, I've always imagined the transitions are a lot easier because you can switch between them a lot faster. So with Terran, you're big on not early aggression, but early-ish aggression. So if you're going to do mono battles, what would be your unit of choice on the Terran side if you had to pick the single one to go for?
Like, which one do I think is best, or which one would I just love to play?
Let's go with both. Like, which one would you do for fun, and which one would you do to really, say there was somehow a professional mono battles tournament? Which would you go for?
Okay, with Terran, I definitely pick the Marine for fun. For actual, like, what do I think would be the best? I'd have to go with battle cruisers, maybe Ravens actually. Like, if I could wait for because that'd be 100 Ravens in 200 supply. Yeah, Raven.
It's interesting because you don't see Ravens utilized as much as you used to do it in the earlier days of StarCraft. So interesting choice. So hang on, let me just grab my cards here. Oh, this was one I really wanted to ask earlier. If you could choose any buff and any nerf to be implemented, obviously it's going to be a bit selfish, but from a selfish perspective, within fairness, which would you go for if Blizzard came up to you tomorrow and said, here's the option?
I'd actually make Banshee Cloak cost a lot more than it does right now. I think Terran versus Terran is far too dependent on Cloak Banshee harass, which, if it happens and you get in a mirror line and there's not a turret there or there's not a scan available, it's game over, which that's not a cool way to have a game, in my opinion. I'd make Swarm Hosts either slower, or I'd make it so they're not burrowed when they're launching their locus, because I think the fact that getting to the Swarm Hosts anyway is so difficult, but then they're invisible, so if you don't have an observer or you don't have a scan or whatever, you can't kill them. I think that's kind of silly. What else would I change? Wow. I'd probably make Terran infantry upgrades cost the same as the Protoss ones. So it'd be, because right now, so Terran infantry upgrades, it's just bio, right? So it's like Ghosts, Marines, Marauders. Whereas Protoss upgrades